back to another episode of Your Money, Your Mission, powered by Johnson Financial Group. I'm your host, Kelly Mould, and today we have a very special episode focusing on women in business. Joining me are two incredible women from different industries, Tamarra Coleman, President and CEO of the Shalom Center, and our very own Karla Krehbiel, Regional President of Johnson Financial Group in the Southeast region. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly.
So together, these ladies have 70 years of experience in advocating for women, both in business and in life. I'm not sure I love that number, especially if you add mine to it. We're at 120. And for as young as we are, that seems like a lot of years. But
we just have to own it.
That's right. That's right. So today, we're going to discuss some of the challenges that you've overcome, some of the support you've received, the way that you are giving back to the next generation of women leaders, and the importance of having a solid financial foundation for women that are climbing this leadership ladder. I am so delighted to be with both of you today because I know you have a very different professional focus, but I'm particularly struck by what you both have in common. I've worked with Karla for almost a decade, and I had the pleasure of hearing Tamarra speak at an event recently, and had the pleasure of watching you engage with your team. And it is very clear to me that both of you engage in a servant leadership approach. And I also know that you both possess this superpower of being able to manage both people and projects very effectively. So with that in mind, I was hoping you would share with me as we start some of the challenges that you've faced and had to overcome over the years as you've moved through your career.
Well, Kelly, it's the first time I've ever been told I have a superpower, so I like that. I like that. And I am going to own my number as part of my answer. I've been in banking for 40 years, and early on, it was really challenging. And let's face it, banking is a male-dominated world, especially at the higher levels within the company. Entry level, it's a lot of women, but as you grow, as you climb that corporate ladder, it does become very male-dominated, and still is that way today. Mm-hmm. So it's been a challenge over the years. One of the things I think about is just gender doesn't matter. And if you're going to be successful in your career, you just need to get past that. And I've had experiences over the years. Early on, I walked into a company. I was in commercial banking, walked into a company, and the owner of the company looked at me and said, "Wow, they sent a woman out here to deal with me?" And I just looked at him and said, "Aren't you lucky today?" I owned it. I did not let that stop me from doing my job.
So you would say that you didn't let the fact that you're a woman in that male-dominated environment create any feelings of intimidation. You just kind of powered through and worked to overcome some of those stereotypes that you may have been faced with?
Absolutely. I had to do that because most businesses back then were owned by men. Mm-hmm. And if I was going to be successful, I couldn't let that stop me.
Sure.
I think it's a mindset too. So my background is not in nonprofit, even though I'm running a nonprofit now. Mm-hmm. My background was in project management. I was in the corporate world for 24 years. And it's a male-dominant space in the corporate world. It is. I don't care what sector you're in. It's very highly man-dominated. And I do believe it's a mindset. You walk in the room, you know your worth, you know your skill sets, and you show up every day as yourself, authentic self. And so I think if you have a mindset of, I belong in this space, I know what I'm doing, and you show up that way every day, I think your mind will shift, and you won't have time to think about who in the room doesn't look like you, whether there are men in the room or what have you. You're just in the room and you're in that space and you're doing your job.
I couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm. So you would say you'd look at these roles and you'd do your job. And do you think you had to do any different kinds of things to keep moving yourself forward?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Continuing education, learning all the skills, going above and beyond a lot of times on what others might have done to prove yourself, and gaining that confidence to know you could get the job done really helped along the way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. She's spot on. You show up and you have to do extra. You do. Above and beyond.
So some bravery involved in being able to put yourself out there, you would say, and taking opportunities.
Challenging yourself. really challenging yourself. So I share with people that early on I was very introverted, and I knew that was going to be an obstacle for me. I say that to people now, and they're like, no way, never, Karla. I appear or come across as very extroverted today, but I had to take on challenges throughout my career to get past that, to gain that confidence, to be willing to speak, to show up at meetings and let my presence be known instead of being quiet in the corner. If I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Now, on the flip side, I'm an extrovert. So I'm the loud one in the room. I always have something to say. I was never afraid to speak up and speak my mind, or in a respectful way, or sharing, giving feedback or being part of the conversation. So for me, Karla, I had to actually, and Kelly, I had to actually back down a little bit and not come to the room so forceful. And because that sometimes can come across differently to other people. So I had to learn the opposite, just to kind of sit back, listen a little more. And not that I wasn't listening in the beginning, but just not be that one to always speak. And that's not easy when you're a person that's always ready. Let's go. I'm ready to move. I'm a project manager mindset, so I'm always looking long term. I'm looking for the next thing. Let's go. And everyone doesn't think like that, and that's okay. You just have to remember to peel it back a little bit. So mine was a total opposite.
Yeah. I think it's a balance.
It is. It is a balance. I think so.
Because you'll find me a lot of times sitting in a room with a group of people, and I'll be the one listening versus jumping in with the answer right away, because I really do appreciate others' opinions and advice along the way. I learn each time. And so I typically do sit back and listen first before I respond. So it is a balance.
It is a balance. And to know when to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like you were both very proficient in reading rooms and then self-evaluating what your moves needed to be, how you needed to respond. Would that be accurate?
I would say
Yeah.
so. Yeah. You have to know yourself too. You have to really know the space that you're in. You have to know how you're going to show up in that space and how you're going to respond in that space. I think it's about self too, and knowing who you are.
Yeah, and knowing that you're not in the room, you're in the room because you add value to the conversation, but that meeting or that conversation isn't about you.
Correct.
And so taking the time to sit back and understand that and really appreciate the other's opinions and the value they each bring to the table is important.
It is. And as leaders in an organization, your staff and your colleagues are really sometimes always looking for you for the answer. That's at least what I feel sometimes, especially in the nonprofit world. When you're meeting with a team, someone may have an idea, and then everyone kind of like steers at you like, okay, so is that okay? And it's like, it's not even about that. It's about having just a dialogue, right? So it is about how you show up in the room and not allow your team to know that their opinion is valuable, and we need to hear from them, and empowering them to show up too. So it is definitely a balance, I think.
Yeah.
So as your careers were evolving, did either of you have mentors or individuals along the way, or strategies that you thought helped you as you moved forward?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, you have to. And I don't care where you are in your journey and your career, you have to have different mentors. I need someone that's going to tell me, no, Tamarra, that's wrong. Nope, that's not the way to go. Or tell me more, talk me through the process. I don't want yes people in my life. I want people that are not afraid to tell me, no, don't do that, Tamarra, or really tell me and give me you're going down the wrong path, or you're wrong in doing that, or what have you. You need that kind of comfort to know that you have people out there that are supporting you, but in all facets.
And I've always had a mentor who's challenged me.
Yes.
So the one thing that I was early on was cautious to take on new positions or apply for positions. And I've had a mentor throughout my career that's challenged me to think differently. It's okay if you don't get the position, put yourself out there and at least try. And if the answer is no, understand why the answer is no, so you can get it next time around. And so he thought, it was a man, is a man, he thought very differently than I do, which really helped me throughout my career.
That's a really good point, Karla, because I have mentors that are very different. Even themselves are very different. I think that if you have a mentor that is just like you, I don't know if you're going to get the same outcome that you're looking for.
Right.
So I have men, I have people that are older than me, younger than me, all different races, ethnicities, genders. I think it's important to have a very diverse group of mentors that can lead you and guide you and challenge you. Otherwise, you're just getting the same outcome that you probably would have gotten if you just asked yourself.
Right. So how do you develop that mentor network? What would you tell a young professional who's looking for mentorship, where to find those kind of people?
Look at people in your life that you respect, somebody that maybe is in a position you would like to be at, or maybe not the same position you want, but you've seen them grow throughout their careers. You can learn a lot from them.
Absolutely. She's spot on. That's what you do.
So speaking of young professionals, what advice would you give to a young woman that's starting her career and wants to move forward and needs to balance all the things that women do? What kinds of advice would you give them?
Tamarra, I used this word earlier. I'm going to use it now. Be authentic.
Yes.
Don't try to be something you're not. They're going to see right through that.
Absolutely.
I'll start with that.
That's it. You have to show up as who you are.
Okay.
I don't try to be anybody that I'm not. Did that before when I was younger. You try to be what you think the company needs or the agency needs or the department needs, instead of just being who Tamarra is and bring my skill sets to the table. Mm-hmm. So I think you should show up who you are. People will love you for who you are when you show up who you are. And I think also, don't be afraid to fail. I think that you're going to fail.
Right.
So it's okay. It's part of the growth. It's part of you growing as a professional, as a person. And so it's okay to fail, bounce back, which is why it's so important to have those mentors in your life that we talked about a little bit ago. But it's okay. And know that life is about pivoting and just picking up and keep going. So that would be my recommendation for them.
The other thing I would add is you never stop learning.
No. Right.
Challenge yourself throughout your life. Challenge yourself to take on tasks that you wouldn't normally do, something maybe you're not comfortable with, something maybe you don't have any background in. You're going to learn so much from that each time. That's going to help you grow both professionally and personally. So constantly, I'm looking for opportunities. I'll volunteer for committees. I'll volunteer to take on a project at work. Maybe I don't have the time for it, but I'll do it anyway because I know I'm going to learn something throughout that process that's going to help me down the road.
Absolutely.
Right.
So, life learners.
Yep.
That's right. That's right. So Tamarra, I know in your capacity, and Karla, yours as well, you both have to interview candidates. And I know over the years, the skill sets and how we conduct interviews has changed. I know I had the good fortune of interviewing with Karla when I started at the bank, so I'm a little familiar with her approach. But interested in, what do you look for? What are some of the key things today you look for that you think your organization needs?
I think that skill set's important, but I also believe that making sure that person fits within the culture of your organization, because I believe that you can train people in different skills. And I'm talking about whether it's computers or, team building, those things you can kind of teach up a little bit. Right. But if you don't fit the culture of the organization, it's not always healthy. I think that's the first thing I'm looking for. The second thing is I'm looking for, this is going to sound really funny, but I need someone that's going to be able to tell me no. I just interviewed probably about 6 months ago for an administrative director position, and I asked 7 candidates the same question. If I was to come into the room and ask you a question that you disagreed with, could you tell me no? 6 out of the 7 all told me a bunch of stuff. Like, well, it depends on the situation. And I'm like, nope, I just want to know if yes or no, could you tell me no? And they all were like giving me these stories, and I'm like, no. One person said, yes, I'd be able to tell you no. I hired her.
So the courage
to be able to tell your boss no. We have enough people in our organizations that just follow the book and they do what they're supposed to do. But when it comes down to trying to figure out something, I don't need everyone to agree with me. as the leader of the organization. I want you to be able to feel comfortable to say, nope, that's not a good, strategy, or here's what I'm thinking. But if you can't do that, then I don't know if you have the courage that fits the culture that we have created. And so that's what I would do. Those are kind of some of the things that I'm looking for, is people that are very independent thinkers, innovative thinkers, can think outside the box, can think quickly on their feet. I'm not looking for the cookie cutter in the box. You have all the skills and checked all the boxes, because those boxes are just on paper. But when you get to the real position, it's that and then some. I'm looking for the then some.
We're very similar.
Oh, yes.
We are.
Yeah.
We are. I look for personality. We do team interviewing at JFG, and I look at that and think, others are looking at skills, looking at education. You wouldn't have gotten to my table for an interview if you didn't have that. So when I'm interviewing for personality. Are they going to fit well within the team? Are they going to fit within our culture? Those are the things I'm looking for. And the other thing I would say right now is I'm never afraid to hire somebody smarter than me. And so many managers are, because they're afraid, okay, maybe eventually I'm going to lose my job. They're going to try to take my job, whatever it might be. I have never been afraid to hire people smarter than me, because I will learn from them and they make my job easier. So
that point.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so important, I think, for leaders to continuously grow and be on that continuous path of learning and being a life learner, because you do want to hire people that are wanting to grow as well, And so if you don't have that, then it's like, how are you finding those people that are smarter than you?
Yeah.
If you're not continuously putting yourself out there. So
Right.
Well, and I got into commercial banking. I had no commercial lending experience whatsoever.
wow.
And I was tapped on by the bank to move into the commercial banking area. And I looked at the manager at the time and said, I don't know anything about commercial banking. That's not my background. And he just looked at me. He's like, you have the personality. You have the style to get the job done. You can learn the job. And I did.
That is a great transition. We had a brief conversation about money and women. And when the three of us were discussing this, we talked about how women who can be financially independent have more control over their life, more control over their choices. So how did you learn about money and finances? Tamarra, let's start with you again. Was that
Sure.
also in your home, or how did you acquire that kind of financial foundation?
Yeah. So both of my parents worked. They had, great jobs. They worked. I think for me, it was like I wanted a car. When I was 15, I was like, I'm going to get my license and I want a car. I was in sports and I wanted to take myself to school. I wanted to it was more of independence.
Sure.
But my parents really didn't say talk about saving, not until I probably got into college, where my parents were like, you need to start saving and those kind of things. But still never really sat down and said, okay, here's how you're going to budget, or here's how you're, going to do this. I think I really learned on my own and just watching my parents, if they did struggle, me and my sisters didn't know they struggled. So I think educating myself and preparing and knowing that I needed to save. I, like Karla, did not want to be broke. Maybe that's not how she said it.
A good goal, right?
That's right. I wanted to be able to take care of myself. And,
Sure.
and even when I got married, and my husband worked in the pharmaceutical field when we got married, and he was like, oh, stay at home and, watch the baby. And I'm like, nope, not my personality. I need to go to work because I wanted to my own. And so I think creating a budget and sticking to it, and the importance of saving. I never wanted to be able to, like, if a car broke down, not being able to take care of what I needed to take care of.
Sure.
You're mad about the incident happening, but I'm not mad because I have the money to take care of it.
Right.
Right. So I think just it kind of came natural just to take care of what I needed to take care of. And just save. And I'm really thrifty. I'm really I watch my money because I want to retire very well. I want the same lifestyle that I have now when I'm when I'm in retirement. I've watched too many people struggle unnecessarily.
Right.
And so anytime we can, show them there's a better way, if you just do these couple of things or not a lot of things, I want to be empowered to own and take care of my own financial future. And so, I just save, and it kind of came natural though. It wasn't like sat down and talked to about.
I'm the same way. I was never talked to about that, but it was a little forced on me because my parents were of the, you graduate high school, you turn 18, you're out of the house, you're on your own. And so I had to learn very quickly how to support myself. And through college, taking classes in college on finance, or through just learning by doing. And I've always viewed it as a continuing education throughout my life. And even today, I participate in things, a lot of the seminars that you offer, Kelly, or the private banking group offers for women and wealth topics. I make sure I attend them, or the books that you recommend, I'll read them. And I'm constantly learning because I, like Tamarra, want to be in that position when I do retire someday, that I want to be able to enjoy life. And I've seen others that get to that point in life and can't retire, or they retire and realize they have to go back to work because they can't afford it. I never want to be in that position.
Right.
I want to retire early. I'm looking at how do we do this early. But you made me think about something. I believe that financial knowledge isn't just about numbers. It's really about empowerment, and that's really what we're talking about.
Right.
Empowering ourselves to have a better future and not, rely on anything additional or going back to work after we retire. And how many people have we seen do that? I mean, so many. And so I think it's just about empowering and educating and sharing best practices. So Kelly, I'll be looking for all those books that you recommended.
We will
to
make
Karla.
sure you get them.
I need the list of books.
Sure. So, and Tamarra, you have 3 daughters, right?
I do. I have 3 daughters.
So have you talked to them about finance?
Absolutely. My husband's more of the stock person. So he gets onto the stocks, and I'm just like, just save, He's like, nope, stocks and bonds and all that kind of stuff. But yes, we have. They're all adults. They're all adults.
All grown.
They're all grown and on their own.
Okay.
They're all doing very well for themselves in their career.
So talking about money and finances, that was an okay discussion in your family. That was expected. And because in some families, parents have been, certainly when I grew up, that was a taboo topic. People didn't talk a lot about that, weren't open about what the finances were and what you had to do. But that's certainly something that you engaged in.
With our children,
with the girls.
They all had jobs when they were younger, teaching them how to save, even giving them little tips and bits along the journey. My middle daughter is actually on Broadway, and she lives in New York. And just trying to, help her navigate those waters, because it's definitely
tough,
different
right?
at 26 and the amount of income that she's bringing in. It looks different than your average 26-year-old. So just how do you do that where you can not be on Broadway at 30, because it's a very quick career, and what do you do at that point, and where are you financially, and can you sustain? And I think a lot of people saw that during COVID. I don't know about if you saw that, Karla, and you're at the bank and stuff, but you see a lot of people during COVID when they didn't have jobs and they were laid off or furloughed or whatever you want to call it. What happened during that time period? There were some people that were sustainable. They were like, I've got a savings. I'm going to be okay for a period of time. There were others that were not.
Struggled.
Yeah, they struggled huge. So I think it's so important. It teaches us also that a lot of people are not ready.
Yeah.
They're not ready for retirement. They're not looking at their savings. And you should be looking at that like right away.
Right. The earlier you start, the more control you have, right?
Not at my age.
I know. Right.
And whether it's your children who are adults now or other adult women, it's so critical because so many times women, the men manage the finances in the household, and the women don't pay attention to the detail. And it's so critical to know what's going on and what you have and are you prepared. And they just rely on their husbands for that. And my advice to them is get involved now, before it's too late.
It's interesting you say that, Karla, because I have had numerous situations where it's not uncommon for married couples or couples in general to share responsibilities, right? You divide the work and somebody does one thing and the other person does the other. Yeah. But not communicating about those finances puts that other partner at a significant disadvantage. So having that communication is so critical, because we've seen that.
We have.
Over and over again. So helping women understand there's many opportunities out there and encouraging them to have the courage to pursue those opportunities is an important role, I think, for all of us. how do your organizations, what steps do they take to encourage diversity and inclusion and some of the things that every organization is talking about, because we know that that makes a more powerful organization, but is not that easy to do?
Well, at Johnson Financial Group, we have, I think, 7 or 8 DEI groups that we've started up a few years back that have been helping a lot of the younger individuals within the group or diverse people within our company, help them progress throughout the company. I think that's really key. Another item that we have always focused on is mentorship. So we talked about that earlier, but trying to connect individuals with people that might be great mentors for them, I think has really helped some of our young up-and-comers within our organization.
And I think just creating and implementing a robust diversity and inclusion initiatives, like Karla was just talking about, that prioritizes gender equality and creating a supportive environment for women, especially African-American women. We have a little bit of a double whammy. Being a woman and then an African-American woman or a person of color, it is not always, it's sometimes challenging. There's microaggressions that people have on people of color that they've kind of perceived notions about how they're going to respond to things or whatnot. So I think teaching on that is so important, and I'm thrilled to hear that Johnson Financial is doing that. That's awesome. Nonprofit sectors try to do that. It's very difficult for nonprofits because of funding, right? And finding the funds to, no one's going to give donation dollars to fund your training on DEI. They're just not. But this includes setting diversity targets, providing unconscious bias trainings, and fostering an inclusive culture where all employees feel valued and respected. I think also increasing representation of women in senior leadership positions and on corporate boards are so important. We also see a lot of boards are driven by male dominant. They're very dominant by men.
Right.
And so how do we get more diverse even on boards of organizations? And so I think also just actively recruiting and promoting the talent within your organization and creating a safe place for people to be able to share, express their feelings, and we do that at the Shalom Center. We have monthly meetings where people can share out. This isn't easy work.
Right.
Being a person of color, being a woman, leading an organization is not easy work. Just like I know it's not easy for Karla in her position. It can't be easy. We experience different things every day that we didn't ask for. Right. We're here.
Right.
And so how do we overcome those? And I think just by creating that safe place and that safe space is important.
I think one of the things I've done over the years to help other women achieve success or to help each other is we do need to learn to lean in on each other. And a lot of expertise we can all bring to the table. I organized a group of women, probably 15 plus years ago, because men have a different way of connecting and bonding and building that relationship, and it's a little bit more challenging for women because we don't hang out at the bars or on the golf course. So it's a little bit more challenging. So I identified a group of women, there's about 15 of them, just under 15, that were high-level women within companies, and we get together on a regular basis and have really become close friends on top of good partners to each other to help each other out. When one of us needs advice, we'll blast it out to the group and get feedback. And we do some exercises when we do get together to be honest with each other and give each other feedback on strengths and weaknesses and challenges and how we perceive each other. And that has helped each of us grow. And that group has grown over the years, but we've limited it to a certain number of people because we know so much about each other right now. It'd be hard for somebody new to come in. Really hard. But I have a group like that in Racine, and I have a group like that in Kenosha. And one of the things we've tried over the years to do is use that group to help mentor younger women. So we have brought a few younger women into the group to help them grow in their careers. And the advice and experience that we've had over the past 30, 40 years, each of us, really is beneficial to them. And I think we need to do more of that out in the community because it is hard for women to make those connections.
It really is.
I would imagine that having that diversity of age as well is helpful when women of our age are trying to figure out what makes younger generations tick, how to get the best employees, what motivates them.
I sat through a DEI training about 2 years ago through United Way of Kenosha County, And the presenter at the end of the session said we had to do a circle on the paper, and he wanted us to put the circles in each bucket was a different group of people. And what he was doing was, and I won't go into the whole detail, but the gist of the training was, is everyone in that circle look like you? So he wanted to, like, if you go to this group of individuals, does everyone look like you in this group? List them, list their names down. What about this group? List their names down. And as I was looking at my paper, we had to share out at the end. And everyone's paper it was like, oh, I have a connection with Karla because our kids went to basketball together or they played soccer together. And then I had a connection with Kelly because we went to the same high school. We were different years, but we went to the same high school. So that was our connection with each other, right? And I looked at my paper and I thought, gosh, my paper, I was the only one, it was like, well, maybe 15 of us in the room. I was the only person in the room that had a very diverse group of people. Because after each person's name, you had to put like their age, their ethnicity, gender, what have you. And I was the only person in the room that had a really, I won't call it a weird, but a really very diverse group of individuals that are in my life that I consider close to me. And at the end, he asked, why do we feel that our circles look like us? And I just said, I think it looks like us because it's what we're comfortable with. It's people that we're comfortable around. And so, but he asked, but Tamarra, you're saying that, but yours doesn't look like you. And I said, because mine was very intentional. My circle, it was very intentional for me to have people that I could look up to that didn't look like me. I had people on there that were all different sexes and genders and ethnicities and everything. That was really important to me. So when I think about mentoring younger people, that's the first thing I tell them. Are you coming to me because I'm a Black woman and you think you can relate to me? Okay, that's great. But I need you to go get 2 other people that don't look anything like you because you can relate to them. Go figure out what you have in common and go build on that. Because in order for us to be successful and be strong leaders in our organizations, you have to be willing to step out of the box and be around people that don't look like you or don't sound like you or what have you. So for me, inclusivity looks a little different than to other people, but I would say step out of your comfort zone. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking.
No, I don't know that I've ever met anybody before that had their own diversity and inclusion personal structure, which is really amazing and makes a lot of sense in terms of making that true cultural change.
I mean, I have a 78-year-old woman that mentors me. I have a 24-year-old woman that mentors me because I'm getting older now, so I may be a little excluded from things, so I have to go back and make sure I'm still young and know what I'm talking about.
That's right.
But it's important, I think, to have, I want my group of friends to look very different than me. Our conversations are different. I learn so much that's different. And you can learn from anybody.
Right.
And so I just try to take it all in and see where it takes me.
That's great advice.
Eat the fish, spit the bones.
So, Karla, what advice would you have?
Challenge yourself.
Challenge yourself.
If there's obstacles in your way, figure out why they're obstacles and find a way to overcome them.
This has been fantastic. Thank you both for being with us today. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to another episode of Your Money, Your Mission. We hope you found our discussion today informative and helpful. If you have any questions you'd like us to explore, please go to the show notes, type your question, and hit submit. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes of Your Money, Your Mission.
Products and services offered by these Johnson Financial Group companies, Johnson Bank and Johnson Wealth Inc. Johnson Bank is a member FDIC, equal housing lender. Wealth management services are provided through Johnson Bank and Johnson Wealth Inc., Johnson Financial Group companies. Additional information about Johnson Wealth Inc., a registered investment advisor, and its investment advisor representatives is available at advisorinfo.sec.gov. Not FDIC insured, no bank guarantee, may lose value.